Well, good morning, Tennessee. Oh, come on. I need a better good morning. Good morning, Tennessee. All right. I'm so excited to be here. Great conference so far, don't you think? Absolutely phenomenal. I was actually reflecting on this last night, and I was thinking about just all of the conversations that we were having around partnerships and building the ecosystem across the state. Quantum physics, who knew? Great presentation yesterday, very educational for me, actually. And radical collaboration, which really was my favorite. And so what I'd like to do to start off the panel is I asked ChatGPT this morning the definition for radical collaboration, and I'd like to read it to you. Radical collaboration is a concept that involves the intense and innovative cooperation between individuals, organizations, or entities to achieve common goals or objectives. It goes beyond traditional forms of collaboration by encouraging open-mindedness, creativity, and a willingness to challenge existing norms and structures. Radical collaboration often involves diverse stakeholders coming together, sharing resources, ideas, and responsibilities in a collective effort to drive significant change or solve complex problems. This approach emphasizes inclusivity, transparency, and a deep commitment to mutual respect and understanding among collaborators. And when I read that definition, and I think about our esteemed panel up here, this definition really embodies the way that they work. And so I really appreciated the definition. I'm honored to be up here with our panelists. Normally, when I'm in Tennessee, I'm on the hot seat, and they're asking me the questions. And so today, this is a little bit of it's different for me. And so buckle up, Tennessee, because, it's going to be interesting. No, I'm kidding. I'll try to be good here. I also, before we get started, I'd like to welcome Michiganders. We actually had 31 Michiganders that joined us on Wednesday, and we're benchmarking Tennessee and the great work that's happening around workforce development. And so some of them are here. Actually, somebody, one of my new friends yesterday said that I won the jackpot because I'm working with Tennessee, and I do absolutely agree with that comment. So welcome, Michigan, to the discussion as well. So. As I said, it's an honor to be up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our panel to introduce yourselves, and we'll start with Denise, and just tell me a little bit about yourself and your role as it relates to talent development, but then also just share something unique that maybe we don't know about you.
So good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Denise Thomas. I serve as the Commissioner for the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And as the name implies, we are knee-deep in talent development for our state to ensure we have workforce development programs and services that really provide opportunities for all Tennesseans. I think something unique is that my last year of undergraduate at my university, University of Alabama at Birmingham, I worked at a career center. Who knew? Had nothing to do with my major. But who knew that coming back full circle, I get the opportunity to now be at the helm for all the career centers in the state of Tennessee, the public centers anyway. So that's my story.
Great. Good morning. Great to see everyone. Jocelyn Reed, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the Tennessee Board of Regents. My role oversees all of the academic and credit workforce programs and apprenticeships at our 13 community colleges and 24 technical colleges, as well as Tennessee eCampus. I also oversee, in a collaborative way, what is called the Ideal Workforce Model, and that is how Academic Affairs and the Center for Workforce Development, led by Dr. Jeff Sisk, how we work with business and industry partners to scale workforce training regionally or statewide, which we have done with various models. I think we're doing the theme of full circle, as Commissioner Thomas shared. 30 years ago, I started as a college student in what was a TBR institution at that time. That education prepared me to go on and do some really meaningful work in different leadership roles in California and Texas for over 2 decades. And so it has truly been a homecoming to return back to work for TBR, the same place that prepared me, and to have the privilege of helping to guide the educational journey of thousands of Tennesseans just like myself. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Hargrave. I serve as the president of the University of Memphis, and Our role in talent development is, as a higher education institution, our job is to help people achieve their hopes and dreams, and that's what we do every day in a major comprehensive university. Now, something about myself. Now, Liliana's going to want me to say that I drive a Ford F-150 to work every day, which I do. But because I am representing higher education, and again, our job is to help people achieve their hopes and dreams. One of the things that you probably wouldn't guess about me as somebody who has a PhD and is the president of a major institution is I'm a first-generation high school graduate. Nobody in my family had ever graduated high school, including brothers and sisters. So when we talk about upskilling, I'm the epitome of upskilling. So.
Good morning. I'm Joe Bales. I'm Vice President for University Advancement at Middle Tennessee State University. Our operation serves as the intersection point for the university and the business community, something we started to integrate about 5 or 6 years ago. And that came out of an experience I had. I've been in higher education in Tennessee now for 37 years, about 15 of it in the University of Tennessee system on the Knoxville campus, and the last 22 at MTSU. An interesting fact, and I guess one of the reasons I'm really interested in the subject of engaging the corporate community with higher education is when they gave me the job and asked me to transform UT's corporate engagement from a philanthropic model to a comprehensive holistic engagement. One of the things I got out of that was a high-level security clearance because I had to go to Oak Ridge, I had to go to defense contractors and things like that. And one of the really cool experiences I got was when they were building the next-gen fighter down at Lockheed Martin, I got on the production line with the number 3 fighter. So I'm sitting up there in the cockpit. I thought, man, this is really cool. And then that afternoon, I'm an habitual golfer, and I got to go to one of the largest golf ball manufacturing facilities in the United States and got to sit there. And what I found that day, it really dawned on me, that real intersection of what we do in academia, teaching those students and applying it to how it really impacts our society through the manufacturing and through the business enterprise.
Wonderful, thank you. And my name is Liliana Ramirez. I'm the Director for Workforce Development for Ford Motor Company. And my role really is preparing the workforce, and so when employees hit the plant floor to do their job, ensuring that they have the right skills to be able to perform their role. And, something unique about myself, and again, something that drives the passion that I have for this work is credentials are really important to the why and the how I got to where I'm at today. And so I had a full ride scholarship to medical school. Life happened. I ended up working as a civilian for the U.S. Army. And at that time, the government was offering a credential for logistics management. And so that credential afforded me the opportunity to get into Ford Motor Company as a logistician at the Romeo engine plant. And so the work that this team does day in and day out is absolutely critical, and not only personal to me, but also critical to the future of Ford Motor Company, specifically around West Tennessee. And so in 2021, when we announced, Ford Motor Company announced that we were building the next generation truck here in West Tennessee, I was part of a team, and it was actually Ann Thompson that planned this lengthy 1 week, very exhausting trip for us, where we wanted to, somebody yesterday said that you have to embed yourself within the community, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to understand the education system. We wanted to understand our workforce, so we spent time just visiting and meeting with K through 12 technical schools, colleges, and universities. We met with parents, and we met with teachers, and honestly, really, this project has been the highlight of my personal career, just based on the work that's being done here. And so since that time, we spent time mapping out the current state of the curriculum, and within that current state, understanding what our needs are in the industry, and then identifying what that gap is, and then working and co-creating really with this team some of the great work that the team has been doing. And so today we're going to talk about TCATs, we're going to talk about curriculum, we're going to talk about articulation, we're going to talk about just focusing on the human being, focusing on people. That was also yesterday when we were talking, and I think it was this morning too, we talked about the importance of people. And so we're going to have some discussions around that. And so we'll start with our panel. And Jothany, I'm going to start with you, actually. And so I got a video yesterday, super exciting. TCAT Stanton, and so they're sending me a video of all of the equipment that's actually going into the TCAT right now, and so I got chills when I got the video just based on where it's at. We're planning the ribbon cutting. I think it's coming up soon. And so state of the art, this is really one of the gifts that Tennessee really gave to us so that we could prepare our workforce. And it's a place where we're going to onboard, we're going to conduct orientation, we're going to have a work simulation. That work simulation is going to allow employees to actually test out their skills and actually practice with equipment before they actually start their role on the production floor. Modalities that we're going to be using include virtual reality. And so we're super excited, Jothany. And so tell us a little bit about the curriculum that the TCAT Stanton is going to offer. And then at the same time, tell us how you anticipate this education hub is going to impact the surrounded area.
Thank you, Liliana. We're really excited about the new development of the TCAT Stanton. From the point that Ford contacted Tennessee, our Chancellor Tidings, will always say TBR is about two things: student success and workforce development. That is our mission. So from the point of connection with Ford, we developed a strategic plan around what the needs of Ford would be to prepare for their workforce. Our next steps in terms of thinking about curriculum was to work with Ford to identify what would be all the competencies that they needed for their workers at different levels to come in there. We did an environmental scan of existing programs at both our secondary and post-secondary offerings. And from that, one of the key new programs that developed out of that is our new electric vehicle production technology program that will be offered at TCAT Stanton that will feed right into the Ford plan as well. We also infuse those competencies that Ford would need into existing programs. So TCAT Stanton is also going to offer some additional programs that are going to be really instrumental in supporting the over 6,000 workers that will be working with Ford on that Blue Oval City. So we will have programs in automotive technology, industrial maintenance, integrated automation, welding technology, a tool and die technology, and as well as that electric vehicle technology program will also be offered in the high schools. Those are the programs unique to TCAT Stanton. But what's really important to understand around TBR's approach, we believe in scaling regionally. It is also going to take more than TCAT Stanton to feed that whole western region. So all of the TCATs, there are 4 other TCATs in that west region and 3 community colleges. They are also duplicating those programs so that we can reach out to citizens in different cities and rural areas so that they have the opportunity to be prepared for this workforce pipeline. Our community colleges are offering associate degrees in engineering technology. We've also developed a new associate degree in electric vehicle technology. And so in doing that work, all of those programs are being offered at the dual enrollment level so the students in the high school can start with those competencies and hopefully finish those credentials and be ready to go on the Ford. If not, they can continue at the TCAT at Stanton. The other piece that was really important is I really believe in seamless pathways for students where they can move to the next mobility ramp. That is important for their own trajectory, but also working with Ford as they need people to be able to promote up to different levels. So we have worked on statewide as well as regional articulation agreements where students coming out of those identified programs I talked about from the TCAT going into the community college can get up to 27 credit hours upon transfer, and that way they can move forward to the next degree. Now, what is going to be really exciting about TCAT Stanton that I believe is going to set a national model that we could duplicate across this country is that it has truly been designed as an educational regional hub. In TCAT Stanton, on that blue oval city, we're going to have the TCAT programs in there that I talked about. Community college courses going to be offered there so Ford employees can complete their associate's degree. We have created space for university partners to offer classes so that employees can get off their shift and complete their bachelor's degree right there on site. And one of the more exciting partnerships is here. I'm sure Commissioner Thomas will talk about it. We also have space in there for the Department of Labor's American Job Center to meet the needs of the people not only in Stanton County, but surrounding counties. Why is this a national model? We know one of the biggest challenges to people in rural communities is access to education and workforce training. And the integrated ecosystem that we have designed at TCAT Stanton and our relationship with Ford, Department of Labor, our university partners, is going to respond to that traditional challenge and meet that workforce need for not only that town, but the surrounding rural communities as well.
Thank you. So exciting to hear. And, we were just at TCAT Smyrna on Wednesday, as I mentioned, and it was exciting to talk to our friends at Nissan that they're actually going to replicate that EVPT already, right? So that's something that they're grabbing and beginning to use. So super exciting because it's not just, we've always said since we started doing this work that it's really not just about Ford Motor Company, right? It's about the industry, it's about the community, it's about lifting everybody up. We can't survive without our suppliers, right? And so really excited about the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. And so, Bill, we're going to turn it over to you. And, University of Memphis was really one of the first universities that we started working with, and really appreciate Bill's vision and progressiveness and just the work that you're doing. And so, Bill, tell us a little bit, and by the way, car buff, which so am I, so we have that in common as well. But tell us something about your exciting programs that you're offering at University of Memphis, the four-year traditional programs, but also the non-traditional ones.
As an R1 major comprehensive university, I mean, we offer over 250 majors, right? So we offer just about anything anybody would want. What we're seeing recently is growth, particularly in computer science, data science, supply chain, our health sciences, including nursing. And when we look at, why are those programs growing, it's the market, right? The students are now choosing where they go to school and what they major in based upon what the outcomes are going to be when they choose that major. And we're going to continue to see that. And because of that, we're putting a great emphasis on our what we call STEM plus H plus B across campus. In particular, our engineering and business schools, we expect those to nearly double in the next 5 years. Again, that's driven by market forces. And it's not just the major, but there's more and more evidence, and again, the marketplace is driving this, of having credentials or certificates, right? Those things that marry with a traditional degree. And there's some great research by a group called the Burning Glass Institute that really drives this home of how important it is and the value to a student when they graduate to have a credential or certificate in an area that's outside their major. And so that's one of the initiatives that we're driving across campus. So if you're a business major, then get a certificate in X. And so from a traditional sense, the traditional 18 to 22-year-old, that's what we're seeing from the undergraduate side. Now, one of the things that I'm very proud of is that when we look at who we're trying to serve, obviously we serve that traditional student, but we have some great programs to help those non-traditional, right, or the non-traditional path. One of the programs that we've had in place several years now is LIFE, Learning Inspired by FedEx. So it's a program specifically designed with and for FedEx. And we, in that program, if you're an hourly worker at FedEx, then you can start working on your degree, and FedEx is paying for it. And we've had hundreds of students then get their four-year degrees while working at FedEx, and it comes with them paying for it and then a promotion at the end. So that's a great program, and we now do that with other companies beyond FedEx, but it was really started with FedEx, and it's a great program to allow those who want to continue to move up, but realizing that, look, they've got to work, they've got to earn money for their families, and don't let that be an obstacle. Another one that I'm also very proud of is, and this is a very recent one, Chancellor Pellman mentioned in her open remarks about how we put up silos, that we may be wanting to radically collaborate, but we've got these silos in higher education, actually across the entire ecosystem, that get in the way of us. And one of those is that for many, many years, as long as I've been in higher education, this idea of starting at a TCAT and transferring to a 4-year was, you just didn't see that. We now have an exciting collaboration with TCAT where, and specifically starting with our Kimmons Wilson School of Hospitality and Resort Management, where the program that they take at TCAT directly can transfer to a 4-year program without losing all that time and effort. And I'm excited about that. It's just that the tip of the spear for those things with TCAT. We have the engineering certificate that we're working, and this grew out of the Ford initiative in advanced manufacturing. And you'll see more and more of that, of where we're going to be very responsive to what the workforce needs are. And then I'll mention one other thing that was discussed yesterday, I think at the very first panel where we had the CEOs and the industry leaders. It talked about really, education. It starts at the K through 12 level, right? And you start preparing somebody along those paths or opening those alternative paths. We have, and some of you in the room may know this, many may not. We have a pre-K through high school program. That's our start at the University of Memphis. We started as a normal school, as a teaching training institute, if you will, and that's been our heritage. We have that, and that's, so we're the only one in the state that has pre-K through doctoral education. And as of a couple of days ago, per legislation, we are now our own school district. We are designated an innovative school district, which means we will be able to grow our school that has been a part of the Memphis-Shelby County school system, and then bring in, not just grow our own, but bring in other schools into that as a top-performing school in the state. We can now spread that. And that's something that's been asked of us over the last couple of years. How do we take what we're doing and spread that? We now have that mechanism to do that. So I mention that because it's all part of that ecosystem, right, of talent development, and not just so set on one area, but how do we develop talent as far as that talent wants to go?
Fantastic. And, you talk about having the ability to go back to school. And so those on-ramp, off-ramps become really important because, and Denise, you mentioned this yesterday when we were having a discussion around, yes, for your college students, great, but what about the rest of the folks that maybe have a life and need something else? So really appreciate that. Appreciate the flexibility also of the different programs that you're putting in place and the articulation. And so it's really exciting to hear just the progress, even since 2021, since I started, being part of this conversation. The other one was, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, the flexibility in the discussions and the ability to say, hey, what is it that you need? And at that time, we talked about, hey, our supervisors graduate and they don't have any idea what a plant is really like. And so they said, hey, let's begin working on a supervisor program so that we can begin to educate and people can understand the day in the life of before they actually get to work. So really appreciate the work and the collaboration really that's happening. And so we'll move over to Joe. And so Joe, you're not as close to Stanton as I wish that you would be, but I know that we've benchmarked just many areas, not only in the U.S. but across the globe. And I know that you have a fantastic concrete and mechatronics pathway within your education system. Can you just tell us a little bit about those pathways?
Sure. I think one of the great things in Tennessee, and you've heard it today, is we have a really diverse education system that takes you all the way from K through 12 through the TCATs, all the way to the R1 universities. And a part of that are our regional comprehensive universities. We're one of those. They're scattered across the state. And the important part of that name is the regional part. One of the things that really our campus has done for decades is we have tried to be very responsive to what's going on in the community around us. So a few years ago, interestingly enough, we have one of the largest concrete suppliers in the country. And he had come to us and started talking about some of the challenges they were facing, because concrete for most people, that's not a hard science, and no pun intended. But it wasn't the thing that there was a lot of educational training behind. So he worked with our faculty, came to them and said, would you be interested in developing this curriculum inside our engineering technology program? And we did. We started down that. We really engaged our industry partners from day one. They were at the table as the curriculum was being developed. It was not truly just an academic curriculum. So our faculty were engaged with practitioners so that as we designed programs and academic classes to meet their needs, we really had the ability to get instant feedback of whether that was going to work or not. And that has been a model that we have used as we've built additional programming. You mentioned mechatronics. It's one of our more recent additions. Nissan and Bridgestone have large presences in our backyard. And they came to us a few years ago.
We'll forgive you for that.
I understand. But I think some of our mechatronic engineers will work very well in Ford, too, I'm sure. But they came to us and said, as we become more and more automated, we're finding that the traditional engineering background has some gaps. There's some things that we really aren't getting or that we think need to be enhanced, in particular as we integrate computers with manufacturing and with robotics. And they sat down with us and with, at the time, TBR, to design a mechatronics engineering program to help us put together something that would really meet their needs. Again, we went right to the practitioners. Those programs have advisory boards that are heavily engaged. They teach in our classrooms. That's something that I think sets us apart a little bit, is we actively engage those practitioners as faculty. They serve as adjuncts, they teach, they grade papers, they involve the students, they create the internships so that those students get not only the technical competence that comes from a degree, but they're doing it in a hands-on manner. They're going into the factories, they're going into the facilities and implementing the things that they learn in the classroom. And so mechatronics has been unique in the fact that it's one of the few degree programs that literally has endpoints at every level of the education curriculum. There is a high school mechatronics program that we work with. We help the high schools, the faculty in those schools develop that. And if their terminal degree is their high school diploma, there's a career path in mechatronics that they get a skill set. They can go through the TCATs, they can go through the community colleges and get a second level of training. And that helps for the mid-managers. And then for the senior leadership, they come through the four-year program. So we have got an integrated curriculum that crosses all of the spectrum from K through 12 through higher ed.
Super exciting to hear. And so, you talk about mechatronics in high school, and you talk about the different programs and preparing students so that when they get to their role in their job, they have awareness. And one of the wins actually within Tennessee as well, within that K through 12 program for us, was the credential for lean manufacturing, which now is available across the state at the high school level. And for the industry, for kids from high school to have the knowledge around lean manufacturing, continuous improvement, problem solving, waste elimination, that mindset of lean is huge for us. So really appreciate mechatronics, lean, everything that starts at that high school level and continues. It's really super helpful for the industry. And so let's get to Denise, last but not least. Every time I look at Denise, it's really, and anytime we have a conversation, the human element of the work that is being done is so present. And, I always talk about manufacturing it has a technical side of the business, but there's a human side that sometimes we have a tendency to forget about. But it's that human element that really connects me with all of these panelists. And Denise, yourself, you talk about this isn't about numbers. This is about people and families. and giving us the right workforce. And so really appreciate Denise, from day one, just, that connection and that understanding of the industry. And so what I'm going to ask you really to maybe talk a little bit about is, so we've talked about the education system and all the wonderful things that they have going on right now. And so tell me a little bit around the labor, the workforce development, your team, what you're doing to facilitate and enable people to actually get into these programs.
Yeah, thank you, Liliana. I was sitting here listening to my fellow panelists and the amazing work that they represent that's happening both at TBR and then at the four-year institutions. And the thought that came to my mind was, when you're in secondary, you have your guidance counselors. And when you're in post-secondary, you have your advisors. But if you're a Tennessean that's in neither one of those places or in between those places, what do you have? There's a lot of opportunity in Tennessee. We all know that. We can all agree on that. But who's really helping you figure that out? And I would like to think that's where our agency really plays a role, and not just our agency alone, but really network with our partners all across Tennessee to really help those Tennesseans that perhaps graduated high school or not and are trying to figure out what is my next step, both for myself and my family. And I really think that's where we can play an instrumental part in helping Tennesseans realize opportunity in a different way. Some folks are not quite ready to make the commitment to take the step into post-secondary because they either feel like they can't or there's real barriers happening to them. And so when we talk about talent development and workforce development, we got to remember the talent in the workforce we're referring to is our fellow Tennesseans. And they come with immense challenges, right? And it's not that they don't know how to work. It's just that it's been job to job. And these are the folks that we have to really help convert from not just getting survival jobs to having an opportunity to have a career. Tennessee is incredibly blessed with all the economic development that has happened in our state. But we have people that are sitting on the periphery of that because they do not have the necessary skills and abilities and competencies to take advantage of it. And what a shame to miss out on what's happening. What a shame to be in West Tennessee and not be able to take advantage of what's available at Ford and all the other opportunity that we know will be happening in our state. And so for our department, it is critical that when individuals are either coming in physically or engaging us virtually because they're chronically unemployed or underemployed, to figure out how do we start to get quick wins. And I want to be very transparent here in this moment because, I come from a small rural town in Alabama where everything was economically repressed, depressed. It's not a vibrant place. We have folks that have similar experiences in our state. And so it's very hard to see opportunity if opportunity is not something you see every single day outside of your doors or in your family. I wasn't a first-generation high school graduate, but I was a first-generation college graduate in my family. And so a lot of times we're asking people to become something they've never seen. And so we have to create really actionable, practical, short-term models to build confidence, to build one's faith to say, maybe I can do that. So maybe I'm not ready to commit, right, to go to University of Memphis, but maybe I can commit to a short boot camp training for 2 or 3 weeks, feel like I've accomplished something, and now there's all these, what I like to call, we leave the breadcrumbs of success, so now they can find some of the more affluent opportunities that are available. And I really think that's where our team has shown practical application, is really be able to talk to these adults that are really trying to figure out, where do I find myself and how do I overcome some of the barriers? And that can go anywhere from just helping someone who maybe needs childcare assistance, because let's be honest, even with the most marketable degrees, childcare finds you. And it's not cheap, right? And so whether it's childcare assistance or helping to provide books if you have found your way into post-secondary. Because again, and Lil, you heard me say this yesterday, it's not enough just to get a Tennessean in a seat. We got to get them to completion. We got to get them to success. When we look at our average labor force participation rate in Tennessee, we're still slightly behind the national average. And so the question becomes, where are the rest of the folks? Where's the 45+%? Where are they? It's our role in the state, not alone, but certainly in great partnership with our partners on this stage and others, to actually go find why are they not actively involved and engaged, and how do we work together to build adult pathways. We talk a lot about pathways for students, but adult pathways that are very practical, that are easy to navigate, and that already factor in worker supports that are needed. And so it's a lot easier to make a decision when you know you have built-in supports along the way. So if I'm thinking about, well, maybe that program at TCAT Staten sounds attractive, and maybe I can do it, but I haven't quite figured out how can I sort of keep the lights on while I go into this course of study. And so being able to bring all of the immense resources that Tennessee has across our network and provide those to help adults not just take that first step, but take a supported step is critical. And I think that human-to-human element and that kind of program design that's very practical, that's short-term, where there's light at the tunnel, is what it's going to take to really get more Tennesseans actively involved and take advantage of these opportunities. And sometimes, sometimes it's simply saying, who told you couldn't have a career in nuclear energy? Who told you that you couldn't be the very thing that you maybe hoped and dreamed about? And I believe that Tennessee is a place where we can really, truly make some of those fleeting dreams become realities for a lot of folks. But I think, we have to make it present it to them in such a way that it's accomplished. It's very hard sometimes when we're talking to folks, and I can say this because I'm a practitioner at heart. And I sat in career centers and I talked and helped Tennesseans for 17 years do this very thing. I've done this in Texas. People are people. Needs are needs. And so sometimes it's really just saying, what's stopping you from getting here to there? And really listening to that and coming up with solutions to help them do it. And we can do more of that. Not only will Tennessee continue to enjoy the immense growth we have, but as you mentioned, Jothany, I think we're going to stumble onto a human-centered design proposition that will be attractive across the entire nation.
And if I might add on that, one of the things that I think is important, I think we're starting to see more and more of that, is the ability to partner with the company so that we can be flexible. The number of employees that sit out in our facilities, all that may have a high school diploma or have gone to a technical school and want to get an advanced degree, they have to continue to pay bills. They have to raise their family. Finding ways to get them through the system outside of the traditional four-year model is going to be imperative. There's got to be an understanding and funding to adapt to that, because those students, we see that regularly. We serve a student body that's about 27 years old on average. A lot of those people are returning workers, and they may take 3, 4, 5 years to get those last 20 hours because they can take it 1 or 2 classes at a time. So we have to be flexible. The employer has to be flexible as we design programs to meet those needs.
So I want you to keep leaving those crumbs, Denise, because we want all of the Tennesseans to come to Blue Oval City. So please continue your great work. And so, I mentioned that we have some Michiganders, and there's a lot of people that maybe want to start doing some of this great work that you've been doing. And so if you had one lesson learned that you could share with folks around beginning this journey around transformation, right? Because that's really what you're doing. You're transforming the way that you work, your organizations, the education system, workforce development, labor, your mindset. So what would be that lesson learned that you could share? And Bill, maybe we can start with you.
I'm going to harken back to something that Chancellor Plowman said, and it's about the silos. Right, and we build these silos, and we look at education as discrete entities instead of a continuum. Right, it's a journey. It's not, hey, you're here and then you're done. And you talked about the off ramp. Well, once you get off, it's nearly impossible to get back on. Right, and we've got to make that simpler. And we think about from K through 12. To TCAT, to 2 years, to 4 years, to graduate programs, these silos that get built, who is responsible for building them? We built them. So if we built them, we can tear them down, right? Why haven't we made it easy to go from TCAT to 4 years? We made it hard. Why don't we have more 2-year to 4-year, especially in this state where 2-year is so accessible? It's because we made it hard, right? We have to make it easy for somebody to move along, start and stop, get off, get on, right? And find that place where they land. And it's not once you choose a spot, then you're done. And if I could wish that upon anybody, I wish it upon ourselves. We're trying to do it, but we have to do that. But every other state who is sensitive to the workforce needs of their state has to tear down those silos.
100% agree. Thank you. Joe?
I think there's another silo. It's that silo that divides academia and the business world. I think that's the second piece that we've got to break down because we operate differently. There's no question about that. I had the pleasure a few years ago working with an advisory group, and one of Mr. Holliday's vice presidents was on there. And he was talking to the board saying, we know what change looks like. When Chad says we're going to move in a different direction, we've got 48 hours to get going. University takes 4 committees, 6 months, and review accreditation for something to happen. Those worlds are different, and they've got to find a way to bridge those gaps because that's where I think the synergy is needed to make this happen. One of the things, as I said, we've been successful in bringing practitioners to the table. I think that's been enlightening on both sides because our faculty are now really getting a sense of how that application, what happens in their classroom is transformed into a job. And that makes a difference. And I think we've changed our philosophies a little bit, but breaking that one down would be the other thing that I think needs to happen.
Thank you. Jothany?
I would share for TBR because we have so many institutions, 37. For us, it has been developing a model that's very intuitive and is very clear. So for us, it is the ideal workforce model, which is from our point of engagement with the employer, whether it's Ford or Nissan. It is the way in which we scale curriculum and programs either regionally or statewide that happens from the point of assessment with Ford in terms of those competencies and needs, the way we design curriculum, the way you only have one point of contact at TBR, but we've got 9 colleges engaged in building out that process and those programs for you, and then the way our office facilitates a blended approach of academic programs, workforce programs, and apprenticeships that are happening across the state all at the same time. So we have a very clear model that when other employers hear it, Nissan says, show me what you did at Ford, and now we're working with Nissan to build their centers of excellence using the same ideal workforce model because it works and we have refined it. The other part of that workforce ideal model are very intentional points of connections with employers. For us, we need to make sure we are driven by what employers are saying they need. While all our colleges have advisory boards, we're being much more intentional working with our partners, Department of Labor, as well as ECD. A great example of that is just this Monday, we had the first of its kind in the state of Tennessee. We had a multi-agency charrette where we brought in over 250 business and industry leaders from over the top 6 industries in the state, and we asked them the questions. What are you looking for? What do you need? What could we do better as these 3 agencies working in partnership? And out of those charrettes are coming out a report with actionable strategies that all 3 agencies can collaborate on and react to independently to really meet the needs of workforce across the state. So again, for us, it's having a very defined model that works whether we're working with the organization that needs 8 colleges, all 37 to deploy training and engage in employers.
Thank you. So it's that systematic view, right? So, and Denise, last but not least.
You know, my wish is simple. It's when we're no longer in these seats, is what we built to last for Tennessee. Because so often, because of relationship, which is great, relationships are needed, but we get things done because we like each other. But when the roles change, the next group has to start all over again. I would love to see this become our new normal, where the silos, where the next group doesn't have to contend with silos because we have simply just gotten them out of our vocabulary and out of our practice. And so if we can introduce a new normal of framework and practical thinking and collaboration together and simply ask the questions, are Tennesseans better off as a result of the program, of the framework, of the center? Are Tennesseans better off? And let that become what we do without it having to be a project. It just becomes the way we think and act as Tennesseans. And I hope that that transcends us because we all know at some point we're going to shift out of these roles. But not let it be about the person. Let it be because this is simply what we do as Tennesseans.
Love that, love that. Well, thank you so much. We're about maybe a minute left to this, and so I do want to thank the panelists from on behalf of Ford Motor Company, and then also personally from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the work that you do, the courage that you have to do the things that you do, which is very different. Thank you to all of Tennessee. And I know that, so I have to leave, and I know Governor Lee's speaking, I think, in about 15 minutes or so, and I have to catch a flight, so I won't be here. But I also have to thank Governor Lee, his belief in technical education, but really it's the walking the talk that's different, right? And so it's not just words, it's the actions, it's the resources, it's the everything that we're doing. And we know that everything isn't perfect because we talked about that, right? There's a lot of opportunities, but thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do every day. Thank you.